Wired Axcess.
We'll do it live.
Wired Access.
Do it live.
Wired Access.
We'll do it live.
Wired Axcess.
Welcome to a Hurrdat production of Wired Axcess podcast. I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha. We are live at the Pinnacle Bank Championship, and we're on the 17th hole at the Hurrdat Pavilion, where they're actually giving away like 10 grand if you can hit a hole-in-one in this hole behind us. Who knows who's going to get it this weekend, if anybody. But we're welcoming today a Korn Ferry Tour, Scott Gutschewski. Welcome to the show, along with my guy, Brian Southworth from Wired Training. Guys, this weather, can you ask for anything better? You're not sweating your butt off. Did the rain hit you while you were playing? You just got done with a round. So I'm coming from mowing 9 lawns. So I like had to work before this. You're here after playing on this amazing golf course. Welcome to the show. How's it feeling so far?
Yeah, so far so good. We avoided the rain this morning. We got done before the rain. Just a typical August day in Nebraska, right? I mean, this is what it's like all the time around here.
Yeah.
I wish.
So this is my first time just talking golf. I grew up, I was in high school. I went to Omaha South here. I actually played 4 years because my parents, I played sports all the way up. But then when I got to high school, no one said, hey, Kendall, this is what you do. I went from school. And golf found my way. You know, I found golf. I loved it through the high school. But then when I was 18, senior year, 8th hole at Spring Lake, during practice, my now wife of 23 years comes to the golf course and goes, hey, you're going to be a dad. So that dreams and hope and want and drive for golf had to turn around to getting a job and get on the real deal. How long have you been in this golf game? Because one, I know you're a father of 4 that get to play golf. And I think a sport like golf, it's not like the others. Like when it comes to seeing, then we got some good noise going behind us. It's not like the rest where you have all your family can play it and get good. You like when it comes to soccer, not everybody can be the best at soccer and have a full family. What is it like for you?
Well, I started playing golf. I grew up, I'm a Ralston grad. So I grew up right there by Applewood to me, Johnny Goodman to the young people.
Yeah.
So I grew up playing, my first round of golf was at Milt's.
Ooh.
Which I had heard they're kind of thinking about getting rid of it.
I think so, because they have that
exactly what
they have that gambling place next door, and I can only guarantee the traffic's not the same.
Yeah.
But everybody loves a good old 3-hole Milt's. You take 3 clubs, if that. I mean, for yourself, probably 1 or 2, but
yeah. So I started when I was about 8 or 9. I had I'm a middle child. I have 2 sisters. So I kind of wanted to be around my dad more, and we were going somewhere, and I jumped over the fence. He was playing at Applewood with my grandpa and 2 of his friends, and we just happened to drive. I think it's like 101st Street that goes right through Johnny Goodman, and saw them on the 11th green. And I told Mom, stop the car. I jumped out, jumped the fence, and followed them around the rest of the day. And we ended up going to Milt's later that day. And from that point on, you know, my older sister kind of started playing a little bit. I was probably 8 or 9. She was probably 11 or 12. But from that point on, we just started golfing. We'd go play the par 3 courses in town. I played a lot at Terra Hills when it was 9 holes back in the day.
Oh man, the old school Terra Hills.
I'd get dropped off up at Applewood. My mom would drop me off, and Gene Johnson would get me on somewhere, and I'd play with somebody, just random people. But yeah, we'd play soccer and baseball and all that stuff growing up. But then, you know, we had a minivan or a van at the time. We'd have our clubs in the back, and we got done playing. We'd go play 9 holes. And that's just kind of what we did. My mom started playing. And yeah, it was just
the best part is you kept it in family.
Yeah, it was something we could all do together. And you know, so when me and my wife had kids, my kids have gotten to be pretty good at golf. But to me, it was just, you know, I just wanted it to be fun for them.
Well, and when you think of the fun, it's like you say, you never want to be beat. No matter how old we get as dads, we never want to be beat. It keeps you young. When people go, how do you DJ all the time? I'm like, dude, staying in the music, keeping the beat, keeping going. That's my style. I like it. golf is something similar where you're constantly working on your craft, but now you're adding the effect that you get to challenge the kids and you get to challenge the family and make it where it's like, I'm not going to let them beat me no matter what they think. How's that kind of feeling for you as they get older? They're getting better. They might be going for that PGA card. I don't know. I mean, that's got to be a goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot of kids that play competitively. I think that's kind of one of their goals and their dreams. It's hard. I mean, it's hard. You know, it's not good enough to be good enough anymore. There's so many people that play. It's become so much more popular. A lot of that because of Tiger, right? I mean, he made the game cool.
He made you watch
right?
on Sundays.
Yeah.
You wanted to watch when Tiger's involved on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still like that, right? I mean, even though his body hasn't quite kept up, I mean, people still want to see what he does, right? Because he was so amazing for so long.
See,
and you want to see it one more time, right?
For you, though, you can also embrace how him and his son are playing.
Sure.
And Brian can relate to this because Brian loves baseball. Well, now his son's in baseball. You know, and when you get those things where you can find those similarities, you almost want them to be way better than you, not just better than you, right? I mean, because if you see Tiger Woods' son come up and be this guy, you're like, okay, now but is it too much pressure at sometimes?
Well, I think it can be. I mean, I think those expectations can be heavy, right? Now I've never tried to put anything on them. I've kind of just said, have fun, you know, and my whole philosophy on sports in general, not just golf, was I remember growing up, I remember seeing so many kids that were so good at things, and then they get to college and they found out there's so many other things they can do, right? Their parents aren't making them practice. Their coaches aren't on them all the time. It's kind of like everybody else here is really good. We're going to focus on the guys who really want to be here and really want to work. And I don't think you're really going to excel at any type of athletics or anything unless you really enjoy doing it. At some point you're just going to be like, this is a joke. Like, I don't
take the shoes.
It's
I'm
a job.
done.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a job. And, if you love it, you're going to put in the work and you're going to get better. I by no means was a great junior player or a great college player. Even, I mean, I played 3 or 4 man most of the time on my college team.
Well, when you think of that though, real quick, I mean, on the college aspect, if I'm a high school golf athlete, like there's always that saying, go play golf or go play tennis if you're not playing a major sport. The scholarships are there, the opportunity, because if you keep playing, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I love free golf. I mean, we played all over the city, but those opportunities aren't something that you'll always get. So if you can get them on a education base, what was that like? Is there actually a recruiting process that you had to go through going from Ralston to Creighton and then Nebraska? How did that go?
Yeah. I mean, I made a couple recruiting trips. I made a recruiting trip over to Drake, and then I made a
Does
trip
that count
down
free
to
golf if you do the recruiting trip?
You know, I don't know what the NCAA thinks about actually playing golf on a recruiting trip.
I mean, it's been a while, so ain't no one going to get fined for that one.
I remember sitting in the office with the Drake coach. I remember him telling me, "You're not good enough to play here. We're really good." And I was like, all right, like, that's fine. So I ended up at Creighton. I spent 1 year at Creighton playing golf. Creighton was pretty much my only opportunity to play golf at Division I. Debbie Connery, I think she's still the women's coach, gave me a little scholarship, and I played there, and I played 1 season there, and I had a great time. But I was a little more focused on the golf than the academics. And I had a pretty decent year, and then I had a pretty decent summer. And I got in touch with the coach down in Lincoln, who was Larry Romju at the time. And just talked to him about transferring. And he just kind of said, I'm not sure what happened. Like, you were a nice high school player. You just kind of slipped through the cracks on us. But we'd love to have you down here. He said, I don't have any money, but you can walk on. So I walked on down there. Got pretty fortunate. One of their good players who was a year ahead of me, who still lives here in Omaha, was Ryan Neefelt, and he had some knee problems, and he decided to have knee surgery and redshirt my first year in Lincoln. And that opened up a spot for me. And I pretty much played every tournament from there on.
Well, and they say things happen for a reason. Obviously, Brian, you remember him when he first got into the PGA. Brian had to reference this, okay? And I'm in my 40s, so I can't say nothing. But he goes, "Yeah, I remember in high school he was up there playing." So it's like that connection. Brian, what do you remember about Scott as you were growing up and that part of it?
Just little, my father took me to a few like golf things just here and there. I was never good, but it was like anytime, I feel like Nebraska, anytime there's like a Nebraska guy like doing something cool in athletics, I mean, people always rally behind that, so it's kind of cool just following everything.
And that's what it's all about, is making that connection, just like Terrence Crawford. I mean, now they're finally giving something to him with that big parade that they're going to do this weekend, and you think of stuff like that. You get to play for Nebraska, you get to play for home. What did that mean to you, and what was your goals after that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was like most kids that grew up in Nebraska in the 80s and 90s, right? Like I remember playing catch with my dad in the backyard and thinking I was Irving Fryer, right? And I'm Mike Rozier making all these moves, and I'm all these guys through the years. Because that's what when you grow up here, then when they were great, like you wanted to play football for Nebraska, right? Like that was what every kid wanted to do here. I played football at Ralston. We weren't good, right? Like we were not good, but I got to play against some really good players. And, at some point there, the writing was on the wall that you're not going to play football in Nebraska, right? I think we played, my senior year, we played against Amon Green, and he had a sprained ankle. Didn't know if he was going to play, right? Like whatever. Osborne was at the game, so he decided to tape it up and play. First play, they pitch it to him. He goes like 60 yards for a touchdown. We're like, oh, he's hurt. Well, okay. And he just runs us over the whole game. And I mean, he's playing both ways, just total freak. So, I mean, it was obvious that I wasn't going to do that. But, just to be a Husker is cool. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I take a lot of pride in the golf program down there. But yeah, I mean, that's just, that's what we have here, right? We don't have a pro team, right?
Everybody's like, are you a Kansas City fan? I'm like, no, I'm not a Chiefs fan. You know why? Because when I was growing up, the Niners are the ones who drafted Tom Rathman, Roger Craig, and those are the Huskers. Those are the ones I remember. Yeah. Kansas City didn't get them until the 90s. Yeah. And then you got the 90s that come through, and that makes me go, okay, but it still doesn't make my love there. And it all relates back to Nebraska. And when you talk about you get to play for there, what was even the thought to go, I want to do golf at that level? What went off in your mind? You were playing multiple sports. What made you decide golf was the one to even go to college and play?
Yeah, I guess it was probably the only one that maybe I was good enough to play. Gosh, I mean,
dude, I mean, because are there coaches that come to these tournaments sometimes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got college, I mean, high school golf, college golf. I mean, it's the golf parent is just like every other parent, right? just like the basketball parent, just like the soccer parent.
Did you see the swing that I've sent 5 times to you? Haven't?
But I mean, it's golf it's big. I mean, you look at some of these, like, it sounds crazy, but some of these top 10, top 20 schools, their kids are flying private to all these tournaments that they go play at. They're playing at some of the best courses in the world. It's a big deal. You look at the facilities a lot of these universities have. They're like world-class facilities. Like some of the best golf practice facilities and golf courses in the world are for these university teams, which is for, if it's for the men's and women's teams, but it's for about 20 people on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the money that they pump into golf in the NCAA. I mean, and it kind of started at Oklahoma State with Mike Holder, who's now the AD down there. But I mean, I think they're spending $40 million to redo their golf course down there. And it's like crazy money that they're throwing to be good at golf.
Now, to be good at golf is time. Getting comfortable with the same consistent swing. What do you think is one of the hardest processes that you had in high school, but college was able to maybe get you a little better over that hump? Because yes, it is hitting consistently, but it's also just one tweak that one right coach can make for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of luck there, and guys move around from teacher to teacher. I think being down in Lincoln, being around players that were better than me helped. Just learning from watching them and learning to talking with them and learning from being competitive with them in practice. I mean, we would, I think my senior year, there were 4 of us that went to every tournament, and then we kind of shuffled the 5th guy in and out. But we just, we all got along pretty well, but we just wanted to beat each other's brains in, I mean, we were just, it's
a competitive, you have to have that drive or else you're not going to get better.
And
right.
In college golf and team golf, the best thing you can do to help your team is to go beat everybody. Yeah. Which is kind of, it's a little bit different aspect. I mean,
well, especially in this day and age, everybody's number one relation to golf is drinking around while you're driving around and just going with the buddies. But when you really have to get into focus and get into that, what's the difference between the average and what's the thing that makes you go, okay, I gotta be locked in? And because obviously even getting your tour card is an up and down process, because it could be injuries, it could be age, it could be all these factors that come into that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's just trying to make, I think the best golfers in the world, their bad shots are better. Like, everybody's good shot is the same, right? Like, everybody's good shot is really, really good. But if I can make my bad shot a little bit better than the next guy's bad shot, that puts me in a better position to score throughout the course of a week. So I think it's just kind of managing your expectations, understanding you're not going to be perfect, doing the best with what you have, and then just to keep trying and not giving up. I mean, it's easy to get down on yourself out here. We hit a lot of,
there's so much time to think.
There's so much time to think, and we hit.
What would you say you average the amount of balls that you like, even with warm up?
I don't hit as many balls now as I did when I was younger. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard in the winter. I don't hit many balls. But it kind of it just depends. I mean, I would say on a really heavy day, I'll probably hit 250 to 300 balls. But I would say most days it's probably less than 100. I just can't. My body just, I can't stand there and hit
We're
balls
not
like
getting
some
younger.
of these kids.
I totally get you. And what I love about the sport of golf, and Brian's now experiencing it, is it's one of the only sports that you can give back in such a big way, like a fundraiser for a baseball team or a team function. What does that mean for the sport? Is it something where it's looked at for money, or do you think it also helps these younger kids realize, okay, there's potential in the golf? Because it's kind of weird having a baseball team. What do you think, Brian, on your side? I mean, this is your first time. It's eye-opening. You're like trying to get everybody to get on the one page, but it's the one sport that can give back in that way, because normally nobody has a softball tournament with adults to get fundraiser.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you walk around here, I mean, there's so much support from businesses and everything else going around. I mean, we're having a golf tournament next Friday for our baseball team, and I mean, that's going to fund half of our season. Just so many people are willing to kind of help out with that. I mean, it's definitely, golf has that community feel, like that everyone can do it. You don't have to be good. I mean, I'm totally expecting to lose about 20 golf balls next Friday.
Just 20. That's all.
I mean, it's a great sport just around.
So if you have golf balls to donate, Brian Southworth is taking them at Wired Training. But what do you think of that aspect of the sport and eyes on?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, golf's like, it's the one thing where you're just kind of playing against the golf course, right? And like I said, everybody can have a really good shot, right? Even somebody who just picks up a club, like sometimes just getting in the air is super gratifying for someone. But your good shots can be really good, and you don't have to be very good, like, to have fun playing.
Yes.
Assuming you're in the right company, right?
Yeah.
But it's like basketball. If you're a guy that isn't good at basketball and you can barely hit the backboard, like nobody wants to play with you. Or tennis, you kind of need somebody similar ability
to hit the ball back
to play with. But golf, like I can go out and play with my 7-year-old who does all sorts of crazy stuff out there. And we can have fun, right? It's not, it's not like, it's not like playing catch with a little kid where you're just chasing the ball half the time, right?
They're chasing the ball.
Yeah.
They're just like, Dad, did you watch that one? You watched that one, right? And you're like, it's neon pink for a reason, so you can see it. Yeah.
But I think that aspect of it, to where, if you're with the right people having fun, maybe you have a few drinks and you just kind of enjoy being outside, and most golf courses are pretty, and being in nature and stuff like that. I think it's just a good experience. And I think you learn a lot about people with how they handle themselves on the golf course.
So no Happy Gilmore throwing of the club, or
everybody has their moments, right? We're not judging, right?
That's right. No judgment here. No judgment here. So you playing at the collegiate level, what do you think is one of your favorite golf courses that you got to play in? What's a tournament that you remember to this day? Because golf is different than some of the other sports on that aspect, where like you more remember the moments with your team than you remember a golf course or a baseball field.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We had some really awful memories at Big 12s. We played Big 12s every year down in Hutchinson, Kansas, at a golf course called Prairie Dunes, which is like a top 20 golf course in the world, which is like Hutchinson, Kansas, really.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's in college. I just hated it. We were a pretty good team in college, and I think it was my junior year. We played really bad, and our coach was really upset. And he just everybody got in the van and closed the doors, and we got about 10 miles down the road, and he got pulled over and got a speeding ticket. He was not happy.
What's punishment look like in college golf?
What is punishment?
Make you run or what?
We're gonna need you to run hole to hole.
My college coach, he was not a huge talker. He'd get his sweater tied around his shoulders, and he'd just stand there with his arms crossed, and he'd just kind of have his lips closed, and he'd just kind of shake his head a little bit, and you knew, like, I got to do better. He's not happy, but he wasn't a yeller. He was, he was just kind of like, and he was a good player in his own right. And I find myself thinking the same thing watching younger guys now. It's like, you guys just make it harder than it has to be, and that's the message he was trying to get across to us, which took me a long time to learn. But it can
like
be
every college student and every college athlete.
Yeah.
And of course the game of golf, it's different as well, because it isn't like, you can go run laps afterwards, or there's no punishment. And when you think of those things as how do we get better, but know that the discipline's there, was there anything as far as discipline that you felt like, okay, now I know I got to turn it up just a little bit besides just this?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I guess in college golf, most of the punishment, the quote unquote punishment, comes in form of qualifying, right? Like you typically travel 5 guys to a tournament and usually have somewhere between 8 and 12 guys on a team. So, some guys have to stay home. So if you're doing well, the coach just kind of says you're going next week. But if you're not doing well, you have to qualify and you have to play against the team and earn your spot to go again. So I guess that would probably be the closest thing we really experienced to punishment. I mean, there's not a lot. Yeah,
no, but I like that though.
Run,
I mean,
it'd be like a running back having a bad game.
Yeah.
And you say, well, we're going to have like tryouts this week and you got to earn your spot again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how college golf works.
And when you think of the Omaha area and you think of the Lincoln area, what's your favorite golf course locally that you would recommend to people coming in from out of town?
Locally, we're getting a lot of really good ones here. Lately, we had a long time where all of our good ones were way out west. I grew up on Platteview. I've always loved Platteview. If you can get on Omaha Country Club, I think that's pretty hard to beat if you can get on.
If you can,
yeah.
You said the big if.
But I mean, I love Johnny Goodman. I love Benson. I think we have 2 really good, 18-hole golf courses here in town.
There's one hole at Benson that just eats me up every time. It's like the one that goes like straight left.
Oh yeah. Is that like 5?
It's
Yeah,
right there. I mean,
yeah.
it's like one of the hardest par fours in the state. I lose
Yeah.
probably 2 balls at that hole for sure.
You know, it's what I love about it is it's a sport that can be just as punishing as the other sports, just as punishing as baseball, whether it's keeping your head down. I remember there was times where I had to bite my shirt just so I didn't, pull my head when I'm hitting off the tee. And it's just those little aspects that you're like, that no one, you kind of just learn through the process. I think the funnest time, how many hole-in-ones have you been a part of? I've been a part of one where the coach left because it was raining. And we're on the second hole at Spring Lake. That was our home course because I was at South, and my buddy shoots it off the tee, gets a hole-in-one, and we're up top, and we're all jumping around. Dude ends up with a bloody lip because we're all like, yeah. And it's like those are the memories and the things that you really lock in. How many of those have you been able to see and be a part of?
I think I've made 5 or 6 hole-in-ones. Those have been a lot of fun. I've seen a couple. Nothing like super crazy. But yeah, I mean, I made a couple in tournaments. I didn't make my first hole in one until I was like 30 years old. It was on my middle son's first birthday.
Wow.
So, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's stuff like that. I mean, it's a crazy game, right? Like you can just be on top of the world and then you can want to quit like 2 swings later.
Well,
right?
and I'm glad you brought that up. Obviously, going through your process, how was the first process to get your PGA Tour? How did that go, and what is it like?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Growing up as a kid in Omaha, you don't have a lot of exposure to professional golf. I was fortunate enough in 2003 to get a sponsor exemption into this tournament when it was over at Champions, and kind of played my way onto this tour. And really didn't have any idea what I was doing. I mean, just out there, I was playing good, but just kind of had, I didn't know a lot of guys who had played out here.
Do you have to go finding it, or does it find you? I guess, like if I'm a college golfer here locally and I'm trying to get on, is it something that will find me, or do I have to go find it?
You got to go find it. I was playing the mini tours. They had a tour called the Prairie Tour. I played the Hooters Tour, played the Canadian Tour, played a tour down in Texas called the Adams Tour. And then you play state opens and stuff. Like we have a Nebraska State Open in September up in Columbus. And you just travel around, you play, and you try to make money and get experience and get better. And then like a tournament like this could be your big shot. I think we got 8 Monday qualifiers this week. Who wouldn't be here if they didn't play well Monday. It's a huge opportunity for them. We got a couple other local guys that have won local tournaments to get into this. I know Nate Bonts from Lincoln is playing, Luke Kluver from Norfolk, and then we got Carson Shockey from Omaha, who's a tour member but hasn't gotten into anything this year. Noah Hoffman, kind of the same story. He's from McCook. If I'm forgetting any Omaha guys, I apologize, or any more Nebraska guys, I apologize. But it's a great opportunity for them to get to play in front of their families on a little bit bigger stage. And it can definitely change the trajectory of your professional career just playing well.
What do you think is like just the process through your week to get to this week? Like what's the week before, and what's just the time that you have to invest in? And obviously everybody's time that they invest, like you said, as you get older, you're not out there hitting the most balls, but there has to be some procedure that you feel comfortable with that you'll consistently try to go back to the well and keep it going fresh.
Yeah. One of the things I started doing, I guess almost a year ago, was I was just, I played on the PGA Tour last year, and I was just kind of running out of gas. So for me, just trying to stay on my workouts is a big thing. I'm not great about it, but I'm better than I used to be. And I think I've understand the importance of that. And when I went and met my guy, I just said, hey, I'm not looking to hit it 50 yards further. I'm not trying to look like Tiger, like I just need to, on Sunday, I need to be like 85% instead of 75%. Like if you can help me with that, like I'm going to be better off. And he has helped a lot. And that's been good for me. That's a super important part of it for me. It's at some point, I'm 46 years old. My golf swing is what it is. Like, I'm going to fall into some of the same bad tendencies over time, but most of the time I can recognize those myself. Every once in a while I have to go see my teacher. But
say that louder though. I mean, you're 46 years old and you're okay to admit that sometimes I just got to go to that teacher. Like,
sure.
Doesn't mean that the learning or even just the refocus. I think it's more of a refocus than it is, because you've already said you are the guy who you are.
Yeah. It's a refocus. It's having somebody that you trust kind of look at your swing and what you're doing and saying, hey, like, you're a little off here. And, I can't always see it. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's super huge, being able to understand when you're struggling a little bit, to ask for help, and not just in golf, but anything. Right.
Yeah.
Like we get ourselves in such a big hole. And sometimes we can't stop digging. Right. And we just keep digging, and that hole keeps getting deeper. And then by the time you do ask for help, you're way worse off than you would have been if you just would have asked a little earlier.
What I like though is you also referred of, like, you're working out just to maintain more than it is to like, you're not looking to go beast out 450 pound squats or anything like that, but that the mental struggle is to maintain. I mean, that's everybody.
Sure.
I mean, Brian, you're so busy sometimes. How do you, like, it's like, you need to find those workouts. How are you finding the time yourself, Brian? And then as well, Scott, how do you find time in the day to make sure that you try to get better for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, if I don't have like a detailed schedule, like every minute that I'm going to spend the next day, like, I get off. So I think it's just like, man, you got to map out your week, like weeks ahead, and just kind of have a little plan and a little structure and something you can go back to, and it's going to work. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, it's just, our schedules change every week. We don't really know when we're playing on Thursday, Friday till Tuesday. So I need a little bit more flexibility in that. And my travel, I mean, if I'm flying around, I'm at the mercy of the airlines, right?
Or the hotel that might not have something.
Or the hotel that might not have something.
Never easy to fly out of Omaha too.
Yeah.
Places you're going. I mean,
yeah. So a little bit of flexibility is good. And my guy's been really good about working with me on that. And then it's just, it bothers me a lot. It's so frustrating because I know after I do my workout, I'm going to feel better.
Yeah.
But it's just getting yourself to do it. Right. Like, I wish they could just sell a workout drink, right? Like, why can't we do that?
The energy I need.
This will make me feel better.
Because if you think those 300 milligrams of caffeine are doing it, it's not going to get you the energy that you really need. So when you think of a PGA Tour golf player like yourself who's been on and off, what does the job consistency go, and what do you do for work? How do you even fit work in when you still got to be, or try to be, to the PGA Tour part? As
I mean, this is it. I mean, this is my job. I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had a couple injuries through the years. So they're from about 12 to 18. I didn't get to play a lot. But yeah, this is kind of it. Like,
I didn't know if you might go to training, or what'd you do during that time? Like when you weren't being able to play as much, the 12 to 18.
Well, I did teach a little bit. I taught a little bit up at Players Club. I was a volunteer assistant in Creighton for a couple years. I've enjoyed that. I put on a junior golf camp one year, up at Players Club. I really enjoy that aspect of it, but, as much fun as that was, like, it's not playing.
Well, when you ask that part, have you ever even thought of what is beyond playing? What is the next step for Scott? Obviously you have your kids coming up in the game, and they're starting to take that role. Is it okay to be dad and be where you're able to watch them on a weekend for their tournament? And
yeah, I mean, I love watching my kids play. I do everything I can to watch them play as much as possible. My wife and I will go watch my oldest son play at Iowa State. We'll go watch, we watched my daughter played for Duchenne for 4 years. We'd go watch her all the time. And now my middle son plays for Westside, and we watch him play all the time. And we try to get out as much as we can to watch him, knowing that I can't totally neglect my playing and what I have to do. But yeah, we watch them a ton. And it's fun. It's fun. I try to help them as much as I can without being pushy. I think playing and understanding how hard the game is, I think helps me a little bit. Obviously whenever you watch anyone you care about and they don't perform as well as you think they can, it's, I don't want to say it's frustrating, but you want to help them get better. Right.
The potential,
but I understand the potential there. But it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch them succeed, and it's fun to watch them struggle. So
a lot to learn from both those.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, you got to let your kids fail a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
Like we want to sprinkle the magic dust on them and let them be successful at everything, but you don't. It's really hard to learn things when you're succeeding, right? So I tell them, try to learn from your mistakes, but more importantly, try to learn from somebody else's mistakes, right? Like if you're playing with a kid and he's doing stupid stuff, like don't do that stupid stuff too, right? Like that's better than learning from your own mistakes. So I try to help them, but then I try to let them learn on their own. They're pretty stubborn.
What's the biggest struggle and learning process that you've had to do for yourself in your golf game that you might even be able to help someone that might be going through something similar?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been staying on top of things. It's been doing the little things every day. For me, it's like checking my alignment, checking my ball position, doing those little things that can be a little bit off every day. And then they can make you think you're doing something else wrong. So I stay on top of the little things, and the way I explain it to my kids or other people is it's like brushing your teeth. Like put your alignment sticks down, check your ball position. You should do that every time you go practice, just so that you're not getting off and then trying to correct it with something else. So that's something I've been a lot more diligent about probably the last 8 to 10 years. And it's helped me a lot. I mean, it helps. I mean, you can't brush your teeth, once a month. And
That's right. That's
right. Like that doesn't work.
Well, and I like that you brought that up because, Brian, you can speak on this. I mean, you're a trainer. So people think that you're trying to adjust multiple things, but you're going to adjust one at a time, just as he's saying, whether it is the alignment or whether it is this. What is that like? Just even being a trainer that has to teach these people how important it is not to change the whole wheel, but just one part, one aspect.
Well, I mean, going back like a little bit more to like the small things. I mean, those are never the sexy things about like training, right? Like, I mean, getting out like the alignment sticks, right? Like, or doing something like that. Like, no kid wants to do that. They just want to put the ball there and try to hit it in the hole or hit as far as they can, right? So, I think it's getting them to kind of form their process and like, hey, this is like just part of it. This is something you got to do every day.
Yeah.
But it's never the fun stuff. If you're working on the stuff you want to work on, you're probably not working on the things you should be working on, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's got to be age appropriate too, right? Yeah. Like when you're 6 or 7, like, yeah, just go have fun, right? Like hit the ball as hard as you can, throw it as far as you can, do whatever you want. But then when you get a little older and you're trying to refine your skills and stuff, you need to be a little more focused and a little, but I think it's got to stay fun, right?
Yeah,
like, but I think you're 100% right. Like you need a plan and you need, you need a little bit more focus, a little more intent. But hopefully those kids develop that love early. And then they can understand like, okay, this can be fun, but I can still have a little bit of focus and meaningful practice.
If I do this is going to lead to fun. I'm gonna play better.
Exactly.
Now being on a big stage like the tour, is it kind of where people are more friendly or is it straight business? I only ask because I'm like, is there a golfer that has really kind of inspired you, but maybe not be like a Tiger Woods or someone of that stature where maybe someone might not even know his name, but just their calm demeanor and the way they play?
There's a lot of really good role models out there. A lot of people that have helped me, whether they know it or not, just watching how they take care of their business and stuff. The tour is a little bit more of a circus. if you're out here on Tuesday watching practice rounds, there's usually 3 or 4 guys playing, and it's usually their caddies. But you go out on tour and like you'll see a threesome, and there'll be 15 people walking with the group, right? Like guys trainer, guys nutritionist, guys swing coach,
Make sure he's got the
coach. Like there's
candy in his pocket to keep the energy going.
Yeah, like if you go up on the range here and see what's up here, there's 3-4 times as many people at a tour event on the range, and there's just I think we got 4 or 5 trucks here this week for the manufacturers, and there's 8 or 10, and they're all twice as big. I mean, it's just a bigger show, and that's just because there's bigger money in it, right? I mean, but it can be super distracting out there. It's for a golfer, it's like Christmas morning every day, because you just go out there and you don't even ask for stuff, and they're asking you to try new stuff. Like, hey, you want to try this? You want to try that? I'm like, well, yeah.
And the wife's at home like, please do not bring home another this, another that, another this. So you think of the family support at home. What is it like to be a golfer's wife? What is her lifestyle? Does she have to? I mean, because I know when I coached football, that's 4 to 5 months that my wife's single mother. And it sucks because we had 4 kids and a lot of activities everywhere. So I'm grateful to be able to do what I loved. But I also now look back and I'm like, man, could I have done better? Could I have maybe, and I think I applied everything that I could, but time is money, especially when it's a job.
Yeah. I mean, we feel like we've done a pretty good job. So when I got out here in 03 and 04 was my first full year out here, and I got my card that year. But early in 04, we, our oldest was 9 months old. And we decided like, okay, we're going to get an RV and we're going to travel in this RV.
That's awesome.
So we had an RV and we traveled around in that and played, whether it was this tour or the PGA Tour, for about, I guess, until he was about 6. So about 5 years, we'd travel around the RV, and that was kind of our way to do it. And everybody was together. It was definitely kind of a traveling circus, but it was fun. We were together and we saw a lot of stuff. We saw a lot of part of the country, and then he had to start school, and we had briefly talked about homeschooling, but we finally decided that neither of us could really handle that.
Oh, yeah, I could only imagine.
Don't remind me like COVID.
Well, I'm glad that he brought up an RV, because I mean, Brian, your kids are young enough. I'm going to tell you now, if there was one thing I wish I would have done when my kids were young, was get an RV. For the amount that you spend in hotels, you might as well have an RV. Now, I'm not telling your whole team to get it, and you might be the party outside of the hotel that they stay at, but I'm just telling you, your kids are young enough. You're going to be doing enough travel ball. Don't miss the opportunity and be like I am, as my son's a senior, the last one, and go, man, I wish I would have had an RV.
It was a great way for us to travel. We had the kids had all their stuff. I had all my golf stuff. We were sleeping in the same bed every night. Like it was a great way to travel. We kept it a little bit after they got in school. Probably had it till about, I don't know, maybe 2010 or 2011. But it was a great way to travel. And then even when they were in school, we got in the summer and we'd take it out and we'd be gone all summer. But it was a great way to travel. I don't know if it had a positive or negative influence on my performance on the course, but I wouldn't change it. I mean, we had great times.
I mean, to me, the travel part, I mean, you're in relaxation. I mean, planes, whether you're taking a bus with a group or whether you're even in a car, is nothing compared to relaxation that you can be in an RV and be able to just, especially if you played and you're like, okay, honey, drive for a few hours, I'll pick up, but let me get off my feet. Like it's got to be more of that comfort feeling than it is knowing that you got to get on a plane or you have to,
Yeah, there was some freedom associated with it for sure. And it was great. I mean, there were 10 or 15 other guys that were doing it. And it was a great way for us to see the country and be together. And it just made a ton of sense for us. And it was a great time.
Well, now you're having a great 2023. Back in April, you won the Suncoast Classic. What was that like? I mean, the guy that you were, I think, going up in competition against was almost half your age, right? I mean,
give or take
a year or two. I mean, those are it's got to feed into why you do what you do, right? You're like, it's gonna burn that fire just a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, I guess it's kind of like, I guess it's the appeal of golf in general, right? Like you see got people that don't play as well. And you talk about people who enjoy it that aren't necessarily great, but there's that next shot. Can I do it that next time? Right. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of similar to that. It's like, gosh, can I do it again? Right. Like, and it's just like, you always, you've heard Max Homa say, like, every professional golfer is like one swing away from retiring or one swing away from thinking they're going to win the Masters, right? So I mean, that's kind of the eternal optimist that you kind of have to be to play this game. And I mean, it was a pretty awesome week down there. It was a blast. I won't forget that.
And now, of course, on the what is the difference between, like, is the Korn Ferry Tour, is that like the minors? How does that rate when you look at, because there's so many tours out there, it's understanding what it is.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to really define what the Korn Ferry Tour is, other than it's the pathway to the PGA Tour. It's kind of where you have to go. You look at the numbers of golfers, you have your European Tour and stuff like that. But this is the way to get to the PGA Tour. And you can kind of control your own destiny, right? Once you get out here, like if you play well, they can't keep you down. It's not like minor leagues, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're just behind an all-star, you might be stuck there, whether you're a potential all-star or not, unless you get traded or something. We kind of control our own destiny out here, right? Like if we play well, we're going to be rewarded. That's like one of the things out here. That's like one of the tough love things. It's like, you don't like what you're doing, play better. But it's not like but it's not like that in all sports, right?
Right.
Like, everyone doesn't control their own destiny. They're at the mercy of owners and management. So like, I don't know how to really define the Korn Ferry Tour other than it's a really unique blend of super talented golfers. Some guys, this may be as far as some guys get, but you also got guys here this week that are going to win majors. So that's a pretty
knowing that opportunity is there.
It's a pretty wide range, like when you look at like the career thing, but like you couldn't pick those guys out on the range, which is pretty amazing, right? Like you couldn't pick that guy because I guarantee there's guys that are playing this week that Korn Ferry Tour is as far as they're going to go.
Yeah.
And then you could have a guy next to him that's going to win majors. And you can watch them hit balls, and you're not going to know which one's which.
No,
that's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, because there's only a few like names that will always stick out in the sport of golf.
Sure.
Until you win that big event. When you win those events, like even your previous, how much pressure does that put for your next performance? Is it as bad as like other sports? I mean, you think of if you hit the cycle in baseball, which is a rarest thing out there, right? One of the rarest things. What do you do next? Or what, like.
Yeah, I mean, I think expectations can be tough. But in a way, I think you can also free yourself up. It's like out here, we want to really make hay when we're playing well. So there's pressure from that side of things, right? You're playing well, you want to keep playing well, and that it's such a fine line. But yeah, I mean, it's just being aware of that, and then just trying to understand that. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one.
Well, let's get you out of here on this one.
Yeah.
What's your best way to calm yourself and get yourself reset when you're in a major that, you really take pride in? This is what I know I have to do to be the guy I want to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that has come with time and understanding that, that like I have my own way of doing things. And even though the analytics may say this or the data may say this, like I know what works for me, and I have to stay patient and, check off all the things I need to do, my working out, all those things I need to do. And I know that I get confidence from knowing that when I check those off, I'm going to be in a better place to play physically and mentally. And then just trusting that I'm pretty good, and
You have to have that
do it.
swagger. Like if you don't, I mean, Brian, you say it all the time. If you don't have the swagger to be the man, you will never be the man. Like
what I always tell people is like literally some of the best hitters I know are some of the dumbest people I know, right? I mean, they don't know if they just struck out 3 times or like they just hit 4 home runs. It's the same approach every time, and they're going up to the bat and they think they're going to hit another home run, right? It's just they forget everything in the past.
Well, once again, I appreciate this opportunity by Hurrdat Sports as we're here at the Pinnacle Bank Championship at the Hurrdat Pavilion on the 17th hole. Remember, if there's a hole-in-one on this hole, someone's getting $10,000. It could be Scott, could be anybody else. Once again, I'm your host, DJ K-Dub Omaha, and we'll see you next time.